Welcome to another episode of The Brand Called You, a podcast and podcast show that brings you leadership lessons, knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. I am your host, Ashutosh Garg, and today I'm delighted to welcome a very, very accomplished entrepreneur, Mr. Rishabh Agarwal. Rishabh, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ashutosh sir. It's like glad to be back again with you.
Thank you. Rishabh is the founder and CEO of Pixel. He's also the founder of Flotex Marketing Solutions. He's got an app called the Shabad app and is also associated with Mentacart and others. So Rishabh, let's first talk of Pixel. Tell me about this venture.
So Pixel is basically operates in gig economy space. So like while the idea came through when I was in college, so I just started graduating in 2015 from SR University Chennai. So I went there into IT domain, but yes, first year I was much more focused into studies. Then again, second year I got my interest into internships. So I did around like 43 internships in my entire second year in different domains. So that was a time, and that was not related to any IT domain actually. So all were marketing, operations, HR, and business development, etc. With that, I saw that companies were not able to find the right matches of interns when they were hiring hundreds of interns together. And similarly, it has a huge pain point for them in terms of managing them, reporting them, rewarding, etc. A long process was there. Similarly, as an intern, I found that a lot of other companies were like not replying at particular moment of time, and like these things were delayed. So I came up with an idea. I didn't launch Pixel right away, and it got launched when I graduated. So in that entire 2 years, when I was third year, fourth year, so 2017 to 2019, 18 end actually to be specific. So I just started working with several brands with whom I interned with. I just tell them, let's give your work to me. I will get it delivered from my people. Your ultimate goal will be met. So this 15th month, I did rigorous market research, survey, user validation, product research. I made some revenue, decent revenue. With that revenue itself, I just started building the product Pixel. So I started with the idea of making Pixel in November 2018. And since I graduated in May 2019, I launched it in June 2019. So that where the inception of Pixel came around. And I decided not to do a job in like around 2018, July or August month. So that was the time I thought that yes, this particular idea can be taken forward. So that was the Pixel inception came in. So giving you a few context of what is Pixel. So Pixel operates in gig economy space where we help company meet on-demand business requirement via gig workers. So any kind of business requirements with the company have, we formulate that into form of task and we meet it requirement by gig workers. Over here, company need not pay any kind of fixed cost. Payment is only done on per task completion, and gig workers are also getting paid on per task basis. We keep our margin in pass. So that's the entire concept of Pixel. Talking about numbers, been 2 years since I'm operating this now. We have around like 350K plus users with more than 200 plus companies work with us. So that's where the Pixel came around, and we are completely bootstrapped.
Fantastic. So we have a very large cross section of viewers. One is a lot of the young people who you can say could be part of the gig community, but there are also some of the older people. So for a lot of our viewers, help me understand, how do you define the word gig?
Okay.
And so how large is this economy?
Definitely. So gig economy market is expected to hit around $325 billion by 2025. And India stands at third position in terms of flexi staffing. And this got boomed in 2020 itself. The reason being actually everything was online. People were looking for multiple methods to work and earn money. So the definition of a gig is like performing simplest of tasks in exchange of money. You don't get yourself into contracts. So there's a two type of work, contractual work and a non-contractual work. So we come into the non-contractual work where we give the pay per task method. So that's where the gig definition is coming in. Now talking in terms like who can work actually. So anyone who is willing to do as a part-time can devote some time from the day and can do some simple activities, can work on it. Right from the college students to working professionals to freelancers and homemakers. We see quite a lot interest coming from the homemakers also, but the interest towards task is different. For example, early students actually in the age group of 18 to 24, they prefer small tasks and all kind of tasks to do because they are much more enthusiastic and much more into earning actually. Then if I talk about the homemakers, so they are much more focused into data entry and telecalling kind of tasks. So they are sitting at home and they are doing simple kind of tasks and they are making money. So that's where this particular thing is coming into place.
Very interesting. And anyone can be a gig worker?
Correct. Anyone can be a gig workers. There's no restriction anything. So they can get it work done from other people and they can keep earning money.
So all that you need is the passion to work and a good connection.
Correct. That's it. Nothing else required. Because it's simplest of tasks. Yeah.
Correct. And tell me, Rishabh, one of the challenges, I mean, this is the biggest work from home network that you can find. What we have all been talking about in the pandemic, everyone's working from home.
Correct.
How do you hold a gig worker accountable for the task she or he has taken?
Okay, so what happens actually, we have two phases in our application. So first we have this like divided that works into two categories actually. One is simplest of task. So what happens there, a layman also come and perform the task who is not having any kind of idea. So those tasks are very easier and the probability of doing it incorrectly is very less. So that's where the particular place comes in. So that is easier so that people can come and just install, sign up the application of Excel and just start performing the task. Now comes the higher end task, where we train the people, actually train the gig workers. So the categories of tasks which we formulate that into particular things are like data entry, transcription, content writing, telecalling, merchant onboardings. In this particular kind of task, we don't require, or the companies didn't require like good number of gig workers, that is like 100 number or 200 numbers. They require 5 to 10 gig workers. In that particular case, gig workers who has past performance who apply to that particular task, they get shortlisted and they get trained and then they start working on it. So that's how we divided the work into unskilled and skilled tasks.
Very interesting. And you must have got a very powerful training team to be able to train so many people.
So training team, we didn't kept our training team to be powerful actually. So it's like completely automated. So how it works in terms of training, when the simplest of training is there, we give them videos, tutorials, etc. in a recorded format. Sometimes it's required, we do a Zoom call with all the gig workers aside. In the second scenario, in most of the scenario, company representative itself, they do the training for them. The reason being, they will be explaining them their product more vastly actually. So that's why the training has been, yes, we try to provide them weekly assessment also, weekly training materials also, so that they can get acquainted to different type of tasks. So that's how we keep on engaging them.
And again, for the understanding of a lot of our viewers and listeners, can you just help me understand what are some of the common things that you do, most popular things that you do?
Okay, so popular things in terms of tasks are like basically user acquisition kind of task, then surveys, then you call it as a telecalling, then we can call as ORM. So these are the basic tasks which we do on regular basis. So user acquisition is one of the popular. The reason being there are a lot of product companies in India and they require user to be acquired on their platform. It can be like, let me take an example of fintech companies. They require account openings, demat account openings on their platform. Similarly, there are companies like EdTech also. They also require similar kind of lead generation on them. So they are like vast. We also focus on segment wise, sector wise. So because in 2021, what I am witnessing, fintech is at the boom. So we also try to onboard as many fintech companies in our particular platform, and then we start delivering the work. So user acquisition is one of the common and the largest, because the reason being each and every company requires that particular kind of thing.
Very interesting. And my next question is, how has the pandemic affected all your work, or probably hasn't affected at all?
Yeah, so pandemic actually helped me a lot in terms of increasing the users and revenue for my company. If I talk about in terms of revenue jump, it grew 3x. Like from FY20 to FY21, it grew 3x. Like when we closed March 2021. In terms of user, we grew 10x. So 30K was the user up till March 2020. When we closed March 2021, our users were around like 3,25,000. So that's where it affected us a lot. The reason being, we onboarded more and more companies. Our cost also got cut down. We restricted our team to be small. Currently also we have a 5 members team. We keep our team small. We keep it more organized and more structured, and like we work on more, like we have a lot of interns working, and so that's where the effectiveness come in. Because the reason being, the entire, when we saw in the month of April to June, there was panic out in India. People were in search of internship and people were in search of ways to earn money. So that was the time we focused much on bringing more and more brands. So I focused on that. I told my team members, I am bringing brands, you get a work done from this particular people. So that's where we scaled during that particular duration, and the results came from July to December. So these 6 months were best for us. The reason being, users were coming in, they understood and they started working in this particular duration. So that's where this pandemic helped us in growing our company.
Fantastic. And one last question, that for someone who's working in the gig economy, There is no worry about time. So you could work for 8 hours, you could work for 14 hours.
Okay, so what happens? It happens like, for example, if some work is requiring, they and work as per their choice. Actually, there's no restriction on the particular timings. Actually, so it requires as minimum as half an hour, also 6 hours. Also, if you're working on some kind of skilled task, say suppose you're working on telecalling projects, that requires 5 to 6 hours in a day. If you're working on similar skilled, unskilled task, actually, the smallest of the task, that requires minutes, and you can get it done anytime in a day. So you can just refer to your friends, family members, etc., whomsoever you want to get it done and get it done right away. So that's how this particular process works.
Wonderful. So Rishabh, I'm now going to move to the next segment, which are some questions for you about startups. You know, you are quite a startup guru and you've done several startups. So in addition to Pexel, you're also involved with others, you know, like Flotex Marketing Solutions and others.
So I will give you yeah. So what a Flotex Marketing Solution is our parent company. So that's our registered company name. And talking about South, that app we didn't launch to monetize it actually. So that app was launched just for during the lockdown itself when several Chinese apps were getting banned. So it was just a simple translation app and a meaning finding app in 10 different languages of India, like Indian local languages. So that we made as just a side project. Actually, we launched it, we kept it. We are not operating them as a whole time. We operate Pexel and Flotex Marketing. Flotex Marketing is our like registered firm name, and then Pexel is our brand name. Apart from them, if I talk about the startup ecosystem, from 2021, I started my journey as an angel investor. I invested in 7 companies till now. So, and mentoring 3 startups. Only focus is on student-led startups. The reason being, actually, I came from that particular background. I know the drawbacks. I know the empathy towards that particular thing. I know the mistakes which I have done, so that these people don't repeat that one, because I didn't got any mentor and didn't got any advisor during my days. So that's where I want to, similarly, like you are doing a great, amazing stuff, giving back to the society. That's what I'm trying to do in my personal capacity of giving back to the students, actually. Because a student, when teaching a student entrepreneur, teaching a fellow student entrepreneur, that becomes more sensibility and more capability of doing so. So that's why I felt.
So, you know, you just mentioned about mistakes, and my next question is about mistakes. I wanted to ask you, what are some of the basic mistakes a lot of startup entrepreneurs make?
So if I talk about then I will talk about the respect to the basic entrepreneurs we do. First, the biggest mistake which I did in my days, like first was I didn't do the legal documentations with the company. So the initial days itself, when I was in college 3rd year, so I just lost some huge money in the first project itself because I didn't do the legal documentation and onboardings and the agreements with them. So that hurted me a lot in initial days. I thought that yes, this particular thing is a critical part in this particular segment in terms of receiving the payments. So that is one thing. Obviously, in entire life, in the entire journey, there were some mistakes, but the only thing is how recapitulate you do that particular mistakes, how you encourage that and how you move forward. But talking in terms of 2021, in terms of the early stage entrepreneurs who are coming in, to whom I talk to regularly, the basic mistake which I see in them, they don't spend time in user research. They just come with an idea of, like, they have a startup idea tomorrow, and today they will feel that yes, I need to make a product. Until unless you are not finding the users for your product, like who are your target segment, whether this market is fitting or not, product market fit is not there, then it's not worthy enough to make a product. I took around like 15 months before I decided to make Pexel app. I was doing it offline via WhatsApp, Google Sheets, etc. So the reason being, I tell everyone, don't be in hurry. If you are a student, if you are an early stage entrepreneur, spend much more time in user research. The research part won't be getting in vain anytime in your part of your life. So it will be having a huge impact when you run a startup. And to be very much frank, if I talk about, we never pivoted Pexel. The first version of app which we launched in June 2091, we are still running that particular version itself. So so we never pivoted, we never included any other feature also in our particular app. So that's where the importance of, when you know your users, that's the importance of particular thing comes around when you launch your app. So this is one mistake which I particularly see. Second, the far most important, today they will have an idea, tomorrow they will think of funding. So try to bootstrap for some time, try to see whether you can bootstrap your company, how you will do that, how you will bring some money. With that money you will invest and make your startup running actually. So that concept needs to be taught to this particular thing. And that comes from the inner self actually, to be frank. Actually, we cannot taught anyone this thing. But yes, this is the common two mistakes which I see. That is first one, like they lack the market research. Second, they right away want funding for their startups.
Fascinating. And one of the other things that a lot of people make a mistake with, and I also made this in my Guardian days, was that you want to scale up very fast.
Exactly.
So I want to understand from you, what are your thoughts on when should a startup start to scale up?
So a startup needs to scale up when they see a opportunity in the market. So what happened for us, the entire first year we had around like 20-30K users. I didn't hurried and I didn't, in that hurriness, I didn't do spend on marketing. So we never spended much on marketing. So what happens actually, what the mindset of your entrepreneurs is like, today they are launching the product, they require millions of users tomorrow. They will spend like millions in marketing and like lakhs in marketing and that particular thing. So avoiding that, just check when these particular people who are existing users on our platform, try to retain them, try to engagement. When you have right opportunity, just scale your product. So for us, the opportunity came during the pandemic. We got around 3 lakh users in that particular duration of the entire 1 year. So that's where the opportunity comes in. That's where you can scale your product, and that's how you can go. Because what happens once you make a product, when people start liking it, trust me, it happened with us. People start referring to others. When your product is good, they will definitely refer. So it happened with us a lot of time. That's why we got around such a big users, because it's not possible for any company, especially in 2021, without spending money on marketing, they are getting 3.5 lakh users.
Absolutely. Word of mouth is a very powerful way to expand, and then you've done that very admirably. So my next question to you is that what are some of the qualities a startup founder who's also the CEO, what are the qualities they should have?
So first I will talk about is like learning. They should be have a capacity and also an attitude towards learning. So obviously keep learning every day, because even if you're age of 40, even you're done 40 to 50 startups also, the learning phase won't over. When you have a hungerness of learning, definitely you will grow more. First, that is. Second, be honest. I know that yes, in people are less patient nowadays. People are like more towards like huge growth. They want spontaneous growth. Be patient. Time will come when you will have something. So that's where the honesty comes in. Don't evolve yourself into some wrong means in terms to get success. So just be patient enough. Things will come in. So if I talk about myself, I am like 25 years old now. I also think today that I am not having so many things. People don't know me. Yeah, definitely. I think it's, let's be honest. Let's deliver something. Time will come when people will also know me. I will also make some money, etc. There are like multiple things. But like the only thing which will stay for your life is like honesty. That won't go forever.
How nice. Very, very well said. So I've got two more questions for you now on startups. I've often been asked this question that should you go solo or should you have a co-founder? What are your thoughts?
So now I am a solo founder itself. So like there are merits and demerits also. So like definitely when you have a huge core team, like a good core team, you don't miss your co-founder, to be very precise. Like I have a good core team in my place. So they have like working support for me. So I don't miss a co-founder. But what happens, there are certain times when people look for a co-founder in your team, rather a tech co-founder in your team. So I'm not a techie actually. I did my engineering, but I am not a techie, full techie. So that's where this particular thing comes around. Now, in terms of like, if I talk about the stakeholders, when some stakeholders are coming in your company, they prefer having a co-founder. That's the fear actually. If one co-founder is going out from the company, there will be someone who will be taking care of that money. So that's where the mindset of people are working out in the market. But yes, solo founders, if they are working good, they are like able to scale them up. If they have a good leadership team in that place, I think that will compensate the co-founder part. So that's what I believe in, because I don't have a co-founder, so I can tell that frankly that yes, things cannot. Yes, at times things get tedious. That I obviously know, because if I'm not there for some time, things will get here and there. So that's where. But yes, we need to automate it. We need to bring us some good leadership team. With this, with that, things will happen.
Wonderful. And my last question for you now is on raising money for startups. We spoke a little bit about bootstrapping. But I get conflicting views from people. People say, when you get money, raise it. Others say, don't raise money till you desperately need it. What are your thoughts?
So I prefer like raise money when you need it. So that's what I think about, because don't go for raising money from the first day. Try running for your company for some time. Let's see. I'm talking all this with perspective of the first time founders, not the second time founders, because second time founders will be bounding to raise money actually, because they have got successful exits, they have some good feedbacks out in the market. A first time founder, check whether these things can work. Then you have some decent traction, go for funding. So that's where the right time comes in. If I give my example, back in 2020, when I launched Pixel in June, when I used to approach investors, so that was also my mindset that yes, let's make some money and let's make some raise actually. So that time, no one used to reply me because people were thinking, yes, we don't have a market credibility as of now. But back in 2021 beginning, when we have some good traction, people started recognizing us. We saw huge interest from the investors. But then too, I thought now my entire mindset got shifted. Like, let's be bootstrapped. Let's see how things go. I don't want to accelerate the growth. If I have a decent growth, decent things are going on, I am like preferable in that itself. So raising rounds is not that you can go and raise anytime. Just find the right time when you need money. Definitely all startups cannot survive bootstrapping. There will be some startups that require huge amount of capital to run there. So definitely in my sector, we can do a bootstrapping for a few years. There will be some sector they cannot do bootstrapping, like in e-commerce, etc. They have a huge manufacturing and etc. cost involved. So that's where the importance of sector-wise also comes into place. Definitely that will work around.
Wonderful. Rishabh, this has been such an amazing conversation. I think, listening to you, I have got a lot of inspiration. But thank you so much. Thank you for talking to me about Pixel and how beautifully you have built this business into such a powerful network. And I'm sure your 3 lakhs will become 30 lakhs, will become 3 crores. So good luck to you and thank you again.
Thank you so much, Asul sir. It was great.
Thank you. Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.